Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ben's Microvision podcast, a podcast for entertainment and general information purposes only, not a financial advice podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at Microvision's new positioning statement around deterministic AI at the edge. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means. We're going to look at the news of the day across the LiDAR industry, and have some fun in a few other ways. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right, welcome to episode 12 of Ben's Microvision podcast, presented by myself and brought to you by laserroasted.com, the freshest coffee money can buy. Please check it out, laserroasted.com. We got a variety of new flavors and blends for you to try out, and the feedback from people has been awesome. Be sure to check out the Morning Uplink Gourmet Donut Shop coffee. That seems to be a favorite of many. So this is real exciting. Okay, we've got a disclaimer. Everything you're going to see here is a creation of my own and has no endorsement from Microvision Inc., the company. I do my best to make sure everything that's shown is accurate, but in the event that mistakes are made, you know the drill. Everything that you read here. All right. Institutional holders update. So this has been interesting. The forms have been filing in from the various institutions. They're showing up at the Fintel and NASDAQ sites. And there's a little bit of information embedded therein. So Vanguard and BlackRock remain at the top of the stack. They increased their holdings by 11 and 10% respectively over the course of Q2. The exciting thing is State Street came inbound and went from 4 million shares up to 13 million shares in the quarter. So they tripled their position. They must have seen something they liked, so that was pretty good. Other interesting events, Mitsubishi came in and they quadrupled their holdings by adding 2.8 million shares during the quarter. Citadel quintupled or sextupled their holdings by adding 1.5 million shares on top of the 300,000 that they already had. UBS doubled up to 1.2 million shares roughly. And a new entrant that I had not been familiar with, XTX Topco, came in. They also sextupled their holdings and now have 921,978 shares of Microvision. So pretty good. On the downside, Hudson Bay washed out their 2.5 million share position. Time will tell if that was a good decision or not. Here's a data point for you if you were interested in the proliferation of autonomous drones throughout the military. Here's an article that came out recently. Army issues solicitation for launched effects autonomous drones. The Army leadership has directed program officers to field the drones to every division and multi-domain task force in 2026. So essentially, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is pressuring the U.S. military services to quickly ramp up their arsenal of autonomous drones. Last month, Hegseth issued a directive on unleashing U.S. military drone dominance to senior Pentagon leadership, combatant commanders, and directors of defense agencies, referring to small unmanned aerial systems as the biggest battlefield innovation in a generation. So I'm not exactly sure how this is going to manifest, but the Program Executive Office for Aviation are looking for vendors to provide attritable drones that can be networked, deployed from aircraft or ground-based platforms, and perform a variety of missions, such as reconnaissance, electronic warfare, and communications relay and strike. This all sounds very familiar and aligned with the Microvision drone swarm coordination demonstration that we are looking forward to in the first half of next year. So this is really interesting. They're reaching out to vendors to help fulfill this concept of autonomous drones that can perform missions in a variety of areas. You may remember in the conference call that Microvision just had, they referenced increased interest in automotive from customers, along with reformulated RFQs to help those OEMs go-to-market strategy. So that was interesting. And now here, this week, we see this: GM revives plans for personal self-driving car. General Motors is seeking to lure back some of the former employees of its defunct Cruise autonomous vehicle business as part of a renewed push to develop a new driverless car, according to people familiar with the matter. This time around, the project would be focused on autonomous cars for personal use, rather than a robotaxi service, these people said. The first step is development of hands-free, eyes-free driving with the human in the vehicle, with the ultimate goal of being a car that can drive with no one at the wheel, they said. The plan was detailed in an employee meeting on August 6th by Sterling Anderson, the former Tesla Inc. autopilot chief who joined GM earlier this year, said the people, who asked not to be identified because the meeting was private. We're accelerating the development of autonomous driving technology capable of operating without active human oversight, spokeswoman Chaidi Sen said in a statement. The LiDAR-equipped fleet is logging data to build simulation models that will guide development. So this is really interesting. The way that I interpret this is that robo-taxis are kind of not it. People in America love to own their own vehicle. They love the freedom of not having to wait for someone to come and pick them up, even if it's a robotic car. They want to own their car. They want to have that freedom and peace of mind to know that anytime they can hop in their car and go where they want to go. So GM's answer to the autonomous vehicle thing is not a fleet of robo-taxis. It's a personal car that you own that can take you wherever you want to go without you having to touch the steering wheel. So pretty tremendous. They mentioned LiDAR. It's evident they're going to need LiDAR. The universe of suppliers for that LiDAR is fairly limited. So let's see who they pick to be the LiDAR supplier. Here's an excerpt from Mark Zuckerberg's recent update on Instagram, where he describes Meta's superintelligence labs. I had a couple of interesting data points that I wanted to take a listen to.
I think that personal devices like glasses that can see what we see, hear what we hear, and interact with us throughout the day are going to become our main computing devices. I believe deeply in building personal superintelligence for everyone. And at Meta, we have the resources to build the massive infrastructure required and the ability to deliver new technology to billions of people. I am excited to build this future, and we've got a lot more to come soon.
That's just a snippet from a longer piece that describes superintelligence and Meta's approach. And so one of the things that's interesting is, artificial intelligence is the thing. It's come online extremely quickly, faster than even the augmented reality hardware. So now you've got super intelligence that needs to be delivered to the user in a seamless way. So the glasses interface is what Meta is going to be producing that will allow the user to interface with the super intelligence capabilities that are being proliferated right now. So very interesting. Of course, Meta, as you know, has now 3% of EssilorLuxottica, which is the dominant eyewear manufacturer in the world by far. And they are looking at this not as a side quest, but it's the main quest, because if they can subvert the dominant paradigm where Apple and Google are the gatekeepers, then they would become far and away the most valuable company on earth, which I'm sure is the goal. So let's see what happens there. All right, so you guys may remember this slide from Jensen Huang's keynote address at CES, where physical AI, self-driving cars, and general robotics is described as the next frontier in artificial intelligence. So you've got AI growth and opportunity in multiple aspects. You've got superintelligence for individual people, which is the Mark Zuckerberg vision, and you've got physical AI, artificial intelligence for vehicles, objects, robots, everything else. So two kind of discrete vectors there. We can think of physical AI as AI that's escaping the data center. So the data center includes, thousands of NVIDIA powered servers all racked up, and they're all calculating all of these responses to people who've uploaded their files to the data center, where they're processed by the artificial intelligence algorithms on the server, and then the information is returned to the user. But what we're talking about here in physical AI is that the AI is now moving from the center to the edge of the network. So here in this graphic, we can see the AI bursting out of the data center and now empowering each of these drones to have artificial intelligence capability of its own without any reliance on the data center. What we can imagine is all of the most valuable use cases for AI will become the edge-enabled use cases, where it's the device operating autonomously in the real world that has the most value. Here was a pretty good article on Forbes. Physical AI is moving things. This was released or published on August 7th, but it's pretty nice kind of primer on what is physical AI and what's been happening, the state of it today, and then some interesting information about the different use cases and some of the notable events. So I'll add a link to this one in the description. So quick read and pretty worthwhile. Okay, so you might be saying, Ben, you're talking a lot about AI. When are you going to talk about Microvision? Well, whenever we talk about AI at the edge, we are talking about Microvision. And Microvision recently updated their corporate company description inside of their 10Q filing to state that Microvision focuses on proprietary products combining deterministic AI at the edge, perception and application software, and diverse LiDAR sensor platforms. So it's AI first, then software, then hardware. So what is deterministic AI at the edge, and how does it differ from AI that we might see elsewhere? Deterministic AI at the edge means it's an AI system on a local device, the edge, that produces the exact same output for the same input every single time. So this differs from probabilistic AI, like your large language models, like your ChatGPT or your Gemini, which can hallucinate. So the output that the system generates in a probabilistic AI can differ, and it can differ wildly, even given the same input. So deterministic AI has a fixed rule-based logic and controlled processes. This means that the behavior of the deterministic AI is predictable and reproducible, such that it's reliable and auditable. If you had a probabilistic AI inside of a LiDAR system that was going to do automated driving, and it said maybe that's a semi-truck that's jackknifed in the middle of the road, or maybe it's not, and you sort of roll the dice and take your chances. This is deterministic. So this says, given the presence of the point cloud in this orientation, I recognize that based on my programming as being not free space, and therefore I must apply the brakes or turn the car and avoid the obstacle. So it's deterministic AI. It's more similar to traditional software programming than these token-based LLMs that do this, honestly, sometimes pretty crazy stuff. You can get into an argument with the large language model, and it can defend its position even though it's objectively wrong. You don't want anything like that happening on a sensor system that's intended to, drive you safely from one place to another. So the rules are established ahead of time. the randomness is eliminated. There's no random elements in the decision-making process. Everything is clear and defined from the input to the output. Okay, so 2D file processing AI that people are familiar with via ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and all this operates in a different paradigm from AI at the edge. So in a 2D file processing AI, you've got pre-existing static data. Maybe you upload an image and it animates it. Maybe you upload a spreadsheet and it figures out what the content is and makes some commentary about it, etc. But it's, looking at a file and it's analyzing it, and this all happens kind of asynchronously. I've got my file, I hit the button, I wait, and it gives me a response. AI at the edge is a live deal. So the sensor streams are happening, and that is the input mechanism. It is what's in this data stream from these sensors. My LiDAR sensor, my radars, my cameras, my GPS, all this stuff is happening at the same time. And so the AI needs to discern what is the meaning of this frame of multi-sensor data. So Microvision's role in this aspect is to capture the dense 3D point clouds in real time, as well as create the merged, synthesized data stream across the different sensing modalities. Likewise, they have a laser beam scanning display that projects live augmented reality overlays to human operators. So the stream is being captured via the Microvision technology, and then the stream can be decoded and presented to the user also via Microvision technology, which is pretty amazing. The location of the computation itself is another aspect where there's a big difference between the traditional AI that we've come to know and maybe love, and AI at the edge, which is where Microvision is going to be performing their AI. So in the traditional world, you've got it centralized inside of the cloud or a data center. Thousands and thousands of energy hogging, NVIDIA-powered servers are all racked up, and they're chomping away at all this stuff. Whereas the Microvision universe is the AI is at the edge. It's on the device right near the sensor. So the sensor is capturing a ton of information. But then the next step is the AI is synthesizing the content into the meaning. The meaning of the information is discerned from the stream. And then once the meaning is captured, the next right action is determined and executed. So that's AI at the edge. That's transforming the world from a sensory stream into a resolved decision at the edge without having to go back to the mothership to answer the question of what should I do. The temporal context is another hugely important part of this differentiation. Your 2D file processing AI is getting a snapshot. It's getting what was the image at this moment, what was my file or spreadsheet at this moment, what is the text that was provided when the user hit upload, and now I'm going to sit there and think about it and give them a response that I probabilistically calculate is the most appropriate thing given this input, right? Whereas the AI at the edge is continuous. It's real-time perception. So it's frame after frame after frame after frame of data that's being modified as it happens. And then those edge resolved decisions have to happen instantaneously. So it's a continuous mapping, obstacle detection, and scene understanding capability that needs to happen with every single frame that goes by. It's an extremely complicated and difficult undertaking that is made possible by the amazing software that Microvision has embedded inside of the chips that power their sensors. One of the things that I see from the YouTube analytics is that 60% of the regular viewers of the podcast are not subscribed. So if you would, go ahead and hit subscribe and join the ranks of the Ben's Microvision podcast subscribers. Really helps out the channel, helps proliferate this content more broadly, and brings this to a wider audience. So if you would do that, that would be wonderful, and I'll keep jamming on this stuff so you get value for your click. Okay, in the action loop context, the 2D old school AI will produce some reports or content for later human use. In the AI at the edge physical AI world, it's directly triggering a physical action at that moment. So Microvision's role in this context is to feed autonomous navigation and targeting decisions instantly. Latency tolerance. You can upload a document to the 2D file processing AI, and it'll do something in seconds to minutes, right? If you ask it to generate an image, it will when it's ready, and if you've paid enough, maybe you move to the front of the queue. That's not how it is with AI at the edge, where it's about millisecond, sub-millisecond type of latency that's tolerable in this context. So with Microvision sensors, they process, they deliver the data with ultra low latency because it's all happening, physically. The decision making is co-located with the sensor itself. So you have the minimum necessary travel time for the data element before it can be resolved by the AI that's on the Microvision chip. Data ownership and privacy is another aspect that's really different. In the 2D file processing AI world, the data leaves the source environment, so from your computer up to the center of the network, and then back. But in the AI at the edge, the data stays local, so there's less risk of exposure of that information. Everything that's in the point cloud is synthesized and resolved as it happens to the minimum amount of information necessary to perform the function. The amount of bandwidth that's required for both of these different flavors of AI is really different. On the traditional AI, you need a lot of bandwidth both to upload your documents to the server and then to receive your results if it's a video or what have you. In the AI at the edge, there's only the distilled information that needs to be submitted from the edge device to a networked device. All the raw data itself stays local to the device. So in the drone swarm mapping use case, you can imagine maybe you've got 10, 15, 20 drones. Each of them is flying. Each of them has its own sensor stream of millions of data points per second. But then, what they need to transmit to one another is a distillation of that information, which is the map or some coordinates or some mission-related information. So they pass the minimum amount of data necessary to perform the mission. So that's really cool. Another note here on differentiation, the old school AI runs on high-powered servers and there's no constraints. So these things, and they're even talking about making tiny nuclear reactors just to power these data centers, which is pretty wild. Whereas the AI at the edge is optimized for low power. So you've got battery-operated hardware that is very lightweight and small in the case of drones, or a vehicle or what have you. So there's no plugging in. So the energy consumption has to be extremely efficient. And fortunately for Microvision, they excel in that area because they design efficient sensors for drones, vehicles, mobile robots, and soldier systems where size, weight, and power are the dominant criteria to evaluate success. So these guys are very, very good at creating very power efficient systems. So there you have a distillation of the differences between old school ChatGPT style AI and physical AI, deterministic AI at the edge, as brought to you by Microvision. You may notice that the investor-facing materials on the website doesn't yet talk about their AI first positioning. My hope and expectation is that that's a situation that will resolve itself quickly, and we'll start to see the company's idea about how they're bringing value via deterministic AI at the edge into the marketplace, being represented visually and with some talk track to support it. So I look forward to that happening. I do want to say thanks to everybody who has liked, subscribed, bought on laserroasted.com. We got a variety of new flavors to check out, including a pumpkin spice that people are going to freak out over. We've got some new t-shirt designs. We've got a Ben's Microvision podcast design. Also, the music in this episode is from my side project, which is called Roughshod Mentor. And I'll add a link below if you like more electronic music than sort of traditional rock band music. You might like this. I'll set it to pay what you want, so you can take it for free, or you can download the whole thing and throw me a few bucks, and that's great too. So thanks again. Really appreciate everybody, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.